11 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few kickers I have as sleeper options this week. The first guy, Jason Sanders of the Miami Dolphins. So Sanders last season was one of the best kickers in fantasy football, but this year he really hasn't done much here to even be in the top 10 or anything like that. So right now Miami's been struggling this season, 3-7 on the year, but this week it's a great matchup for Sanders and the Dolphins at the New York Jets that give up the second most fantasy points to kickers on the year. So the last few games here for Sanders: Week 8 versus Buffalo, 3 fantasy points; Week 9 versus Houston, 6, and then Week 10 had a pretty good ball game versus Baltimore, 10 fantasy points. So right here he's available in 74% of fantasy leagues, and at a weak New York Jet team that just gave up 45 points 2 games in a row now to the Colts and the Buffalo Bills. I think Sanders in this one could get anywhere from 8 to 10 fantasy points, and he's definitely a kicker that is a sleeper this week. Guy I have as a sleeper this week is Mcpherson. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals. So Mcpherson was off to a great start the last few weeks, but then he fizzled out here now in weeks 8 and 9. So the last few games here for Mcpherson: Week 6 at Detroit, 11. Week 7 at Baltimore, 13. Week 8 at the Jets, 7. And Week 9 versus the Browns, 4. So right here, they were on bye last week of the Cincinnati Bengals. And right here, they got a good matchup at the Vegas Raiders. That give up the 12th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. Mcpherson, we know he's a rookie, but we also know he could kick the ball 50-plus yards at any given day. And right here, it's an indoor matchup. He's available in 93% of fantasy leagues. And this Raider team, they don't really stop anyone on defense. We saw the Chiefs, who've been struggling all season on offense, put 41 points up on them. And we've seen this Bengal offense score a lot this season as well. The last 3 out of 4 games: Week 6, they scored 34. Week 7, 41. Week 8, 31. But versus Cleveland in Week 9, it was a bad one, 16. But it wouldn't surprise me to see them score 30-plus points here as the Bengals. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Mcpherson have a good one this week. And the third and final kicker I have as a sleeper option this week, Graham Gano of the New York Giants. So Graham Gano, he's been one of the better kickers in the top 10 this season in fantasy football. And right here, he's got a pretty decent matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that give up the 18th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And Graham Gano, we've seen some huge games out of him this season, but the last few weeks for him, he's been solid as well. Week 7 versus the Panthers, 15. Week 8 at the Chiefs, 5. And Week 9 versus the Raiders, 11. So right here, Tampa Bay, he easily could get anywhere from 8 to 10 fantasy points. And it's surprising to me, he's available in 91% of fantasy leagues. This game, I think the Giants could get in the red zone, but they're an offense as well that doesn't finish many drives with touchdowns and have to settle. And I think in this one at Tampa Bay, I could see more of the same. So that's a few kickers I have as sleeper options for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.